Call this meeting of June 27th to order. Would you please call the roll?
Miller,
Yes.
Williams, Hay,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
First item is the approval of the regular session, May 23rd.
I move for approval of May 23rd regular session meeting.
Second.
Miller,
Yes.
Hay,
Abstain.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Next one is the approval of the regular session of June 13th.
I move to approve June 13th regular session minutes.
Second.
Miller,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Abstain.
Next item is a public hearing. I'd like to open the public hearing to rezone property located east of Mary Street from R1 Single Family District to R3A Multi-Family District. Mr. Slagle, need a motion to open it.
I move to open the public hearing.
Second.
Miller,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Now, Mr. Slagle.
Okay. Yes, this property is located in the northeast part of the community, and the proposed use is ultimately for senior housing. To cover the details of the request, Rita Jackson.
Good evening, Council. This public hearing concerns a request from Kenneth W. McHugh to rezone his property, which is undeveloped property, so it does not come with an address. This property is bounded by the west by Mars Street, to the north by the city limits, on the east Highway J, and on the south by Veterans Drive, which is highlighted on the map in the blue. Mr. McHugh, owner and developer, would like to utilize this property to facilitate the expansion of Berkshire Senior Apartments. This would include an additional 40 living units for senior residents. The units will be built as fourplex apartment homes that adjoin the current Berkshire Apartments to the west. The city has contracted with Engineering Surveys and Services to conduct survey and design work for the Mars Street Extension Project. This project has been in works with the city for quite some time. It just didn't develop because of this property, but it has been on the books for several years. This project will involve the construction of approximately 450 linear feet of curb and gutter street to provide a connection between North Jefferson Street and Route J. The survey work was recently completed, and city staff expects the construction work will either begin in the fall of 2022 or the spring of 2023. City code requires that on a rezoning request, notices need to be sent to the property owners within 300 feet of the requested rezoning. And it needs to be a 14-day notice. 37 surrounding property owners within the 300 feet were sent letters. By the time that we had the planning and zoning meeting, we had only received one verbal communication, and that individual was requesting additional information regarding the construction and the layout of the units. The city comprehensive plan shows this area as neighborhood, which is low to medium density residential mixed. Generally, this classification represents detached single-family housing, two-family housing, and low-density attached housing. Density is typically found or developed in the range of approximately 8 dwelling units per acre, depending on location and content. If you did not utilize this property as residential, secondary uses according to the comprehensive plan would be public and privately owned parkland and public or semi-public facilities. At the June 7th, 2022 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, city staff made recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission, What city staff actually looked at on a rezoning is we look at the planning and what the zoning classification should be. Our recommendation was made based on it. It meets the plan of the zoning that it is requesting to have. At that meeting, we had 4 households which were present. Their concerns were traffic and drainage within the area. During that meeting, our city engineer did do a presentation on a traffic study was done approximately 6 to 9 months prior to this meeting, and it showed no levels of high speed or anything in the area. It just came out as average. Staff recommends that the council proceed with the advertised public hearing. I will say that in the audience, we do have residents from the area, and we also have Mr. McHugh, which is the developer.
Thank you. Questions for Rita?
I have a question.
Okay.
I'm looking at your map, and I don't see you're talking about that blue area, right?
Yes.
Okay. As far as outlets to where they can go, I mean, you've already done the traffic study, but as far as street where they're going and they can come out on agricultural, where can they come out on different streets? Can you see?
Right now, it would be off of Marsh Street.
Oh, okay, they can come out on Marsh Street?
Comes right down there and catches on the veterans right there.
And the city has plans to extend Marsh Street, which will go out to Route J.
So they would all the houses there in the blue area would move forward to Marsh Street and go out to the...
Well, not necessarily. It would just be their option. This is giving them another option to actually go out of the development.
Okay.
Is there a problem with drainage now?
And if you don't mind, can I have our city engineer, Drew, to actually address that issue he did at the planning and zoning meeting?
Sure. Be fine, Drew.
Good evening, council. As you know, there is a lot of stormwater that does come through this area, and the area on the north is a floodplain. So we would be monitoring both of those items during construction. We have ordinances in place that regulate both stormwater development and floodplain development. So there should be no adverse impact to stormwater causing flooding upstream, downstream, or any change to the floodplain itself. So there is a lot of water that comes through there, but defining it as a problem would be difficult to say at the moment without a study there. But we can say that when it gets developed, stormwater is engineered and the floodplain would be engineered as well.
What do you mean by an engineered floodplain?
We have requirements because we participate in the National Flood Insurance Program. We are required to regulate any development in a floodplain. So an engineer must stamp and seal plans for that development, and they must have it what they call flood-proofed. There are standards to how large of a pass-through you must have per square foot, let's say, for a foundation, for a crawl space, things of that nature. So you would have a set of plans that would be required to be developed to make sure structures could handle flooding.
Would this area have a retention pond?
It
Commercial?
could. Yeah, any development over 1 acre has that potential to have a retention, detention pond, rain garden, underground storage. All those things are part of our MS4 Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System Program.
So that would be determined by the engineer at the time whether they had a retention pond or storage area.
That's correct. Yeah.
So by drainage problem, there's a drainage problem in the blue area where they want to build.
North, on the
North
very, very
of the blue
north
area.
there, and we're not showing the floodplain on here, so I apologize. To say that there's a drainage problem, just because it's a floodplain does not mean it's a drainage problem. Just means that if you get a 100-year storm, the water could raise to that level. And so if they were to build inside that area, we would have to regulate that as part of our participation in the National Flood Insurance Program.
I mean, to the north of that, okay.
On that map, it's north.
Yeah. Okay.
you can see the outline of the river that passes through there. I believe that floodplain pretty well follows the river and protrudes down. You see the city limits on there, and protrudes down in that area.
Anything else for Rita? If not, we'll open this up for public comments. If you'd like to make a comment, please come to the podium, state your name and your address, and hold your comments to 3 minutes.
Ken McHugh, 1308 Kent Road in Mexico. I'm the owner and land developer of the project that we're talking about. Rita's done a good job in covering a lot of things I was going to, so I'm just going to make it real brief and then answer any questions. Let me just start by saying the concerns about the flooding and the water, I'm well aware of. The area that is to the north, where most of the flooding occurs, is not going to be developed. That's all wooded. We may put a walking trail down there, but that's that's in the county, and that's not going to be developed. The area to the west, there is a drainage ditch through there. That will not be developed, will be about probably 100 feet or more from that drainage ditch. So I'm well aware, as I said, of the drainage situation there, and there's no plans to develop in that area. Basically, can we switch to the architect's rendering? The project that I am master planning and developing and in the process, and we're in the early stages, is for senior housing in Mexico. I think we'll all agree there's a need for senior housing, and I'm going to try to fulfill that need with the seniors in town. The agreement that I have at this point with Berkshire Apartments, which, as Rita said, is adjoining to the west of my land, they have a need for another 40 units, and they are in the process of working on their part to do the development and to get the funding and so forth. It is a tax credit property, as will be, as their property is, which means for the residents affordable. The average rent there now existing in Berkshire is, for a two-bedroom, is $498 a month. They do have a few one-bedrooms that are $4 1/4. So that's a very affordable range. There are, get my notes here to stay on for 3 minutes. There will be, in the master plan, and this is down the road, this is phase one, assisted living, independent living is phase one of the 40 units. Is that my 3 minutes? Okay.
That's okay, go ahead.
You have another.
Yeah, I want to hear you finish.
The second and third phase, again, it's a master plan senior housing project. The second phase, and I'm still in the early stages of talking to other developers that are experienced in assisted living, that I'm planning on that being the second phase. And the third phase, I haven't really gotten into that yet. I haven't talked to any developers that specialize in that, and that is a specialty area, and that will be for memory care. So the whole campus will be a master plan for serving the needs of the citizens.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay.
Anyone else?
How you guys doing? My name is Joseph Head. I live at 1700 Lawrence Place. The back of my property is adjacent to the blue area. I've lived in that area for 10 years now. And there's a lot of things on that, in that blue area that they're not showing. There's multiple creeks that are in that area. There's a lot of wooded area in that area, and that's the reason why that wooded area is there, is because of the creeks. As far as the drainage, Laketon flooded the next night after we had the rezoning meeting here. They said, oh, it's all been taken care of. Well, it rained that night. That morning I got up and it was flooded. Mary Street was flooded from Langton to Lawrence all the way to the woods. The drain is not fixed, and it's not going to help when they start building out there. And my concern is, this gentleman, I understand he's going to develop, he wants to do it and everything. I was born and raised here in Mexico. I graduated from this high school. I went to the Marine Corps. I come back in '09. And every single place that was ever built here that was for people of age, for the older people, has now been transformed into low income. And that is my concern, that, okay, they have 15 people on the waiting list right now. What's going to happen when those 15 people come in? You got another 40-some units, and you can't fill it. That company is going to put low income in there. That's what's going to end up happening. You're going to have Mars Apartments all over again, because I remember Mars Apartments. I was here as a kid when that was going on. That is my concern. Plus, the gentleman tried to reinsure us that the woods are going to stay at the backside of Lawrence Place to the buildings. But once the gentleman has Mars goes through, MECAP's coming in and they're building most of that stuff. And those guys do low-income housing. They don't do over 85, they don't do 55 and older, they don't do anything like that. They do low-income housing. That is my concern, that we're going to build something, and then all of a sudden we're going to have issues with it later on down the road, because within 5 to 10 years it's going to be a low-income building if we don't have problems with the drainage system. Because they can say what they want. I've walked them woods, I've walked that blue area, I've been in that area, and that is all flooded. It always has water there. There's always, the creek runs through there, and everything dumps into that creek. So that's my concern on the whole issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, can we ask someone to, where does this wooded area start?
Where does the wooded
Where
area?
does the wooded area start?
That blue line,
Go back to the other map.
that blue line where Lawrence Place is.
I can show you where the drainage ditch comes through from Jefferson Street.
Thank you.
Okay, so the drainage system all starts from Jefferson. It comes right down here behind all the properties here. And then it turns and goes this way. And there is a series of creeks. And from this right here, here's the existing apartments right now. And I would say from here up to here and over to here, this is all wooded area.
Okay.
So, and this is my property right here. And from this point right here I mean, literally, this is all solid wood through here. But this right here is about a 20-foot drop to right there, and it's probably about 12 feet out.
Okay.
So is the light blue then, I don't have a topographical map to
Yeah.
look at. Is the light blue then the
Yeah, that's where he's
wooded
wanting
area?
to develop, yes. Yeah, he's wanting to develop all of this. But like I said, this is all wooded area, and like I said, this drainage comes through here and it turns right here and it goes right by these properties. And that's why the trees are there, is to cover that drain, to help keep that water going through there. But it still floods. Langton will get ice, about 4 or 5 feet of ice, all from road to road. And so will Lawrence Place right here at the bottom. This is all ice, this is ice. There's a drainage system right here, but when I literally came down the road, the water was running down here, going past that drain, down Langton, down Mary, and out into the woods,
You didn't,
on top of the road.
were you not able to go to the zoning committee?
I was here for the zoning, yes.
Were you here?
Yes,
And you expressed these same concerns?
yes, yes, I did.
Anyone else?
I'm Linda Pruitt. I also live at 1700 Lawrence Place, where they live. And when we got our first letter, it said that they wanted 40 units. for senior housing. And then when we got here for the meeting, it was 40 units and assisted living and a nursing home. So we kind of feel like we've been duped. He says he's not going to cut down the trees, but once that road goes through, he's selling that property to the developer that's going to come in and take everything out. And he stood here for 40 minutes at that meeting. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then we said, are you selling that property? Yes, I am. He's not doing any of it. It's that other company. I have no guarantees that I will not look out my back door and see houses and people. I was 61 years old when I bought my very first house, which is this house. And we've lived in it for 10 years as renters. We were finally able to buy it in 2020 because it's quiet, it's private, and I'd like to see a show of hands how many of you would like that in your backyard.
We don't comment like that.
Right, but I mean, you get my point. We don't want it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Someone else?
James Bruner, 1705 Lawrence Place. First thing I want to make sure that the council understands is that you can't really found a property on the west side of an east-west running street. So what did you say under your agenda? Item number 4A should read, to rezone property located east of the end of Mary Street. Are you clear on that? Okay, good. All right, the second thing I want to point out is, and I hope that our city engineer is taking care of that, and that is that not only are we talking about the existing floodplain, but when you throw in a new street, parking area, and apartments, all that are impervious, that will not absorb any moisture, and it has to run off of that surface area. I hope that he has considered that in how it's going to handle the water out of that area in the future. Okay. The amount of water that goes out of that area, all must go under the old Route J bridge. That's the restriction. So the more water you have running off quickly, it's going to pile up because that's the only outlet. And finally, these apartments, 4 units, I don't really understand. Let me say this. In the planning and zoning, Mr. McHugh said that these apartments would be on a yet-to-be-named north-south street that would run off of the newly constructed connector between the existing parts of Mars Street. I wonder how he's going to fit these in, if he has any idea what the frontal dimensions are of those apartments, and if there will be any distance between them, even for a lawnmower to mow grass. So I would like, if possible, Mr. McHugh to give us a dimension on the front of the 4-unit apartments so we could make a consideration as to how far they're going to run. Now, you will note the west edge of this property outlined in blue. The very west edge is 605 feet long, according to the description we've been given. And I'm wondering if there's enough room there for what he's talking about. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nothing else
Chance to comment.
on this? Yeah, sure.
Go ahead, Charlie.
This is relative to something different.
This is just for the rezoning. You can probably comment later on something else. This is just on rezoning.
All right.
Okay, somebody make a motion to close the public hearing?
Well, can we go back and ask the engineer a couple questions?
Sure.
Hey, Drew. I'm reading these notes from the zoning commission, and I've listened to them, and they seem to have some, you mentioned it when you talked about it, but then I'm reading here about your, it says interim public works director Drew Wilford addressed the room. He explained that with regard to floodplain and stormwater concerns, the city has processes in plan. So could you tell, because my memory is just not that long anymore, could you tell me if those processes have been completed? And if you're satisfied with what you found, or if you are,
So
does it address what they have talked about?
There's two distinctions to make here. I believe what was mentioned earlier about Mars and Lakeland flooding was the premise. What's already been constructed received enough water to where it perhaps even overtopped the gutters and rolled towards the east. When we design our systems, storm systems, they're designed for a 10-year storm. So anything in Mexico throughout all town is designed for that 10-year storm. If you get a storm like I think we had that night, if it exceeds that 10-year allowance, then it will certainly it'll be over capacity for our system, and you'll see that rainwater accumulating in the roadway to a much higher spread. Makes it certainly look like it's flooding. But that is typical for any city and any location. What I'm describing, though, is for the development to come. So we regulate the development. We look at the engineered plans. We work with the engineers themselves to make sure that when stormwater is evaluated, they actually design it, not just for the 10-year storm, but they have a 25-year requirement and take into account the 100-year storm requirement. So there's several steps to this to where we're monitoring it throughout. Same thing with floodplain. Anytime that they're just inside the floodplain, that automatically kicks in design requirements. So I'm separating the two. You've got an existing system that is designed for 10 years, storm events, and we probably had an event that locally breached that. Then we've got a new construction coming in that will be designed to hold that stormwater for the 25-year event and also handle appropriately without causing issues the 100-year event. I hope that makes sense, and that is in compliance with DNR's regulations that they have for communities of over 10,000 people.
The design for this particular piece of property hasn't been completed yet. That would be done once this project begins. And of course, then you and our building officials would go through this and determine whether it meets the requirements. And if not, then it would have to be redesigned before it was built.
Absolutely correct.
And then also, as to whether we have to put retention ponds in to handle the water. Right now, the water is just running over the land, and it's very possible that it wouldn't run quite as much if it had retention ponds, which would be designed by these people.
Yep, that is all correct.
So it could be a little different even for what we have now.
And it is important to distinguish here, too, the stormwater that's coming down the street will stay on the street as it goes east and Mars Street Extension then will connect the two ends together, at which point it'll roll down Mars Street and then actually be channeled off of Mars Street into the ditches along Route J there. So it's important to distinguish that the water that's already there is going to continue going east, and it will stay on the street at that point and then get diverted into the ditch along Route J.
Further questions?
Ms. Jackson, so the letter that went out did say it was going to build, they would house 40, there would be 40 places for senior citizens to live eventually, right? Or is it true that it was only 4? It just said 4 units that would house 40 senior.
I would have to look that up and see what the letter actually said, but
You don't really have a street plan, Mr. McHugh. You don't really have do you have a street plan for the new units? I mean, as far as where the buildings would go and all of that, do you? Anybody?
Well, he's not gonna, he's not.
No,
He's not
that's too
doing
early.
it.
No, who's it?
They don't have that.
You don't have that.
No.
Probably wouldn't have engineered drawings as to what's going to happen until they have the property to put it on.
Right now, it's not even what they wanted to vote on. Is just
This is zoning, right?
It's for the zoning. Possibly look into
Mr. McHugh, did you have a comment, quick?
Let me just add to what Vicki was saying. The engineering and the survey has not been done yet.
Okay.
In the development process, the first step relates to zoning. I have to get it rezoned and then spend the money to hire the engineers, and it's going to be the same engineers for the land part as the city uses out front of it. So it's kind of the cart and the horse thing. There's a sequence of events that have to occur in any development project. We're in phase 1, several phases. And I can assure you that all the concerns that have been met earlier, expressed earlier, will be met. Of course, the city's going to see that.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
So
go
once
ahead.
we see the engineering plan, then we go back to that and we can,
I'm sorry?
once we see the engineering plan or how you want to lay out things, then we get to look at that again, right? And
And to answer Steve's question, I'm not sure about the letter. I don't remember how it was worded. But there will be 4 plexes, 4 apartments in each 4-plex. There will be a total of 10, 5 on each side of the street that we'll put in north-south. 5 and 5, and the total is 40 units. That clarifies it a little.
Yeah.
would you like for me to answer the question that went out to the property owners? It said that it would include an additional 40 living units for seniors. This is based on the information that when we received the original request. This is what the request came in as an additional 40 units, and the letter did say 40.
Okay.
Okay, one of the things that I guess I was hearing some other people say is they're concerned that it will go from being a senior housing to a different type of housing. Is that one of the main concerns?
Because every place in Mexico so far has been 85 and over is now low income. Even behind the movie theater is low income now. That's no longer 55 and over.
that was 55.
Can I piggyback you?
But they couldn't fill it, so they made it low income.
Well, I'm on the same concern that she is in the fact that the people in the zoning room answering the questions are the people that own the property. And from what I'm hearing is that then, once we rezone this property, you can turn around next day, sell the property, and that person can build whatever they want on that property zoned to what we make specifications. So that's what they're saying, in the fact that we can stand over and say senior living, well, the next person that comes in and writes a check, buys the property, can make those apartments whatever they want to make those apartments, not just senior living. So that was some of the things I heard too as well. And that becomes, because as I read the notes from the meeting, as I see Mr. Whitaker sitting in there asking the right questions, is the person answering the questions going to be the one signing off on the engineering and who's going to be living in those apartments when we get to that place that we need to do that?
Yes,
At
ma'am.
the last meeting, they asked...
You want to come to the mic so I can hear you better?
At the last meeting, they asked him point blank, will there be low-income housing? Do you accept Section 8? He said no. But the lady that takes care of the apartments now on Mars said yes, we do.
They have Section 8 in there right now.
Yeah, they have Section 8 in there right now.
Thank you.
But, I mean,
We have a severe shortage of housing in Mexico, and I understand your
Exactly.
I understand your concerns completely. It's really a struggle, so it's kind of a toss-up. And that's why we have a planning and zoning board, is so they can really dig into this. I mean, we have a hard time figuring out all the positives and negatives in just a few minutes that you all presented, and that's why we have a zoning board. Sends letters, has the meetings, talks for long periods of time from both sides, and makes a decision that we typically follow, because we don't have all the information. I mean, we're getting some from here, there, and yonder. But any other questions for you all?
Well, it sounds like we're kind of like, as he said, the horse and the cart, and they've got some concerns that, and I certainly understand their concerns, but we got to zone it first to see the plan for it. Is that the way I understand? Is that the way I understand that?
He's not going to do the engineering work if it
Right.
isn't zoned to do it, to do something.
You can't zone it. I mean, it has to be zoned for multiple.
So what we're dealing with is the zoning.
Right. And, then there can be a lot of discussion later about what's going to be built there
And how it's going to be...
how it's going to be done.
How it's going to be supervised, too.
I think the question that everyone has, will they come back to us? Because again, that's private property.
Right. They can't,
Once it's zoned.
That's true.
I mean, it's...
Certainly everybody's honest in the world, aren't they, Dr. Shiver?
Try the hospital.
You really don't want me to answer that, do you?
But it's a tough decision. We understand what you're saying. Do you have a comment for us, or we'll wait for legal counsel?
We're waiting for legal counsel.
Anything for us, sir? No, okay. Anyone else to speak? If not, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second?
Miller,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is ordinance. Bill number 2022-33, an ordinance rezoning the property bound on the west by Mars Street, on the north by city limits, on the east by Highway J, and on the south by Veterans Drive, and amending the district map referred to in section 42-204 of the Code of the City of Mexico, Missouri, zoning to R3A Multiple Family District. Mr. Slagle, any more comment?
Your Honor, we have no more comments unless council has any additional questions. Otherwise, the ordinance has been posted its required length of time. And if council wishes, you can proceed with the two readings by title only and passage of the ordinance.
Pleasure of the board.
Could this be postponed? I guess it doesn't make any difference. Chris is not here.
Can we postpone this? Do we need to vote it down? No?
No.
Just
Table it, so we need to be, when you notice,
We're missing one council member, and
Tables to the end of the meeting, right? We'd have to postpone it, right?
Postpone it.
Postpone to a set date, it's usually the best.
I'd feel better postponing it.
Yeah, I want to get some more information.
I'd like to go see what we're looking at, too.
That's in my former backyard.
It's your all's pleasure.
I move we postpone bill number 2022-30.
Table.
When do we table?
Oh, okay.
Then you might want to mention to the date so that we can publish, or otherwise it stays tabled until you tell us
okay.
to bring it back.
Oh, I thought table, we have to bring it up again at this meeting. I thought postpone, we move it to what?
July.
Okay.
Bring it up to the July 11th.
What's the date? 11th? I move that we table bill number 2022-33 till July 11th, the meeting 2022.
Miller,
Yes.
Hague,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Bill number 2022-34, an ordinance of the City of Mexico, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain municipal officers. Reading and passage. Mr. Slagle.
Yes, Your Honor, this is an annual ordinance that we deal with. This is in accordance with provisions of Senate Bill 262, that each political subdivision with an annual operating budget in excess of $1 million must file personal financial interest statements or devise a code of ethics. This ordinance establishes a procedure for disclosing and filing those statements of interest by certain officials and employees of any private, financial, or any other interest in matters that affect the city. This ordinance pertains to the mayor, council, the city manager, and the deputy city manager. Therefore, if we have any particular interest that affect any matters for the city, we must disclose those annually, and we do have to file that annual report each May. Therefore, staff recommends the council proceed with 2 readings by title only and passage of the attached ordinance, and the ordinance has been posted its required length of time.
I move for first reading of bill number 2022-34.
Second.
Miller.
Yes.
Hague,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Bill number 2022-34, an ordinance of the City of Mexico, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain municipal officials. Move for second reading of bill number 22-34.
Second.
Miller.
Yes.
Hague,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Bill number 2234, an ordinance of the City of Mexico, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain municipal officials. I move for passage of bill number 2022-34.
Second.
Miller,
Yes.
Hague,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Okay, resolutions. Bill number 2022-35, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into agreement with the Mexico School District to assist in providing additional police services to the school district. Mr. Schlegel.
Yes, Your Honor. The City of Mexico works with the Mexico Public School District in providing 1 full-time, 1 part-time school resource officer. This is an annual contract. To cover the details, Chief Rocket.
Good evening. We're not making any, no one's asking for any major changes to anything that we've been doing. We seem to have worked out kind of homeostasis on how we're going to run the program. It's been very successful in the last few years. So unless you have some questions about anything that we're doing now, then we would recommend the attached resolution.
Questions?
I move for a first reading of bill number 2022-35.
Second.
Am I in the right place?
That's right.
Yep, or it just would be 1 reading.
Miller,
Yes.
Hague,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes. Bill number 2022-35, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into agreements with the Mexico School District to assist in providing additional police services to the school district. I move for passage.
Second.
Miller.
Yes.
Hague,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Next item is payment of the claims.
I move we pay the bills.
Second.
Miller.
Yes.
Hague,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Next item are comments. The first would be council comments. We'll begin with you, Mr. Hague.
4th of July is coming up. Everybody just be safe and smart and know the ordinances for fireworks and all that, and enjoy the fireworks show. And that's all I have.
Mrs. Briggs?
Well, I want to thank you all in the audience for coming. I've been listening to you've been debating very carefully and very thoughtfully, and I know there's two sides to this, so we're trying to listen to and sort out. So I appreciate your politeness. I appreciate your thoughts about it. Yeah, be safe for the 4th.
I just want to say, I think this is the last council meeting. We've had Miss Missouri, we had Juneteenth, had a lot of events in Mexico, so and we're looking forward to the ones coming up this weekend. Like everyone else said, just sort of stay safe.
Mr. Slagle.
Yes, sure. The annual budget will be coming up shortly, and I will be contacting you in regards to meeting dates where we will need to devote a lot of extra time to go through that. So we'll be looking at that first week of August. Okay. So I will be contacting you regarding timing.
Hours of numbers.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. Look forward to it every year.
Okay, at this time, we'll take public comments. If you'd like to make a public comment, we ask you to come to the podium, state your name and your address, and try to hold your comment to 3 minutes. The floor is open.
My name is Dan Ertl. I reside at 1414 Briarwood, Mexico. I'm here tonight with a contingent of Mexico citizens to request the City Council to consider and act upon renaming Garfield Park to the Teron Lou Park and Pavilion. I note that the councilmen and women all made comments about the significant activities taking place in this community this weekend. And our hometown hero, Teron Lou, will be contributing significant funds to that endeavor. Now, I'm not here to diminish or lessen the significance of the history of Garfield School. It had a significant impact on a lot of our citizens who both live here now and have moved away. And it is very important that we remember that significance, pay tribute to it, like we have the old school at the Audrain Historical Society. It's important to note that Garfield School and Garfield Park are two completely different entities. The history, I am told, is that that land was owned by A.P. Green Refractories. And then it was transferred to the Housing Authority, and then the Housing Authority deeded it to the city. The Garfield Park, or the Garfield Playground, was once located west of the United Credit Union building. So it really didn't have anything to do with Garfield School, the present location. And so I think that we should take note of one of our citizens that has given so much to this community, so much to our youth, has had a powerful impact in the past, and I believe will have a powerful impact in the future of this town that he calls my hometown. And I think it's important for the youth of this community who recognized Teron Lou. They don't recognize President Garfield, who that school was named after. But they recognize more than just the physical abilities of Teron Lou. They recognize his spirit of competition, his spirit of of truthfulness, his clean living. He has a tremendous impact on our youth, and I think it would be tremendous for our youth and older people to walk down and see a sign that says Toronto Park and Pavilion. Now, there's a number of people here that have commented to me about, and others that have commented to me about the importance of continuing the historical significance of Garfield School. And I feel that the city, working with some foundations maybe, could come up with a more suitable and more impactful recognition of Garfield School and its contribution to our black community. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, sir. Mr. Fry. Mr. Fry.
Charles Fry, 310 Vine, Mexico, Missouri. Born and raised there. If you go to any football, basketball, whatever game it is, you probably hear me. I'm a Bulldog, and I'll die a Bulldog. And this is my hometown. I'm proud of it. There are probably some areas that need refinement, but it's still my hometown. And I'm just here to say for those who are concerned about Garfield and naming Garfield school, whatever it is, I have no qualms about anything. Number one, Garfield School is Garfield School. It'll be Garfield School until I'm gone. It'll be here. It's been here. It'll be here. It isn't going anywhere. I would like for the area where they're concerned about, and I think it's down near the basketball court and all of that, to simply say Garfield and call it a pavilion where you can just go down and bring your family. And as Jim just said, the history, we can always do something here in Mexico, relative to that. But I want to say and put it on record that I am in favor of Garfield Park, staying Garfield Park. And somewhere down the line, the term pavilion or whatever being closed. I'm a historian by nature. My wife's going to run me out of the house before long. I'm going to collect everything in the house. And I'm at a point where not as sharp as I am mentally, but physically I'm still as strong as I was. And Coach can testify. He's heard me a few times on the football field. But I just want to say that I'm not really in favor of naming things after people. I'm just not that kind of person. I think of Garfield, I think of Garfield School, Garfield, and I have so many friends at little small towns around here, and their football teams, they're like whatever the football team is the school is represented by that sport, for an example. And I just want us to stay like that, stay like Mexico Bulldogs. And if you want to come down to Garfield, Garfield Park, because you go any place else, and I was going to bring what I have from at home. I've gone over my 3 minutes. All the little small towns, and they all have a park. But the park is named after someone, a citizen. It's named after a citizen, and we already have that. And I want it to remain, and want us for us to remain Lady Garfield Park. And the VA you can always put a plaque down there or something like that. Just a place to go down, have a good time. But the community itself, community, Mrs. Garfield School, and it's part of this community. It has been and always will be. And I just thank you, and I thank concern that it's been brought forth relative to what's occurring here. We need strong men like Teron, that when they're out, people see that they're from a small town, that we're a small town with values, and winning and losing, we win some, we lose some. And Coach can testify to this. Us losing our football game, I'm going to leave it at that. A team that probably was dominant in terms of their ability to play the game. But in terms of friendship, leadership, end of the game, we go over, we shake hands, see you next time, we prepare next time. We're not angry. We'll see you next time. We'll be ready. We'll come up with something for you. And that's where we want to be. And we want our town to be like that. And it is like that. Win some, you lose some.
All right. We appreciate your comments.
So we need to put this on.
Just say I love Mexico.
Or something. Yeah, parks.
Anyone else wish to speak? If not, this topic will probably go to the Parks Board for discussion and let them bring us a recommendation. But we'll take it under advisement and say probably transfer it to the Parks Board, and they can bring us back their recommendation.
Yeah, recommendation goes to the Park Board.
Second.
She didn't move to adjourn, but okay.
What?
Yeah.
Didn't she? Don't have.
No, you said
didn't-
recommendation.
I thought you said we had to make a recommendation.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Don't have to.
We don't have to do
Yeah, no, but that's what you just said.
Yeah.
I moved to adjourn.
Oh, I thought you said move to the park. I thought she said move it to the park board.
I said we'll move it to the Park Board.
Well, I second that we adjourn.
This item needs
Oh,
to go
okay.
to
It needs to go to the Park Board.
Miller,
Yes.
Haig,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs.
Yes.
Jesus.